I have found that the reason you hire is never to solve a problem. You need to be sharp and be able to figure out how to solve a problem on your own or understand at least where the problem lies. And you hire people once you've proven something out, right? It's like, okay, we realize that our paid ads are having a huge return on investment for the company. So now we want to have someone come in to own that so they can scale that operation. But to hire someone just to come in and figure something out that you can't figure out yourself usually doesn't end well, because how are you going to manage something you don't understand?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. I'm your host, Greg Head, and this week my guest is Rebecca Shostak, the co-founder and chief brand officer of Flodesk. That's FLODESK.com, which is beautiful, simple email marketing for small businesses. And we thought email marketing was dead. There's so many products out there. Everybody's doing it. They have grown a substantial business to $30 million after 6 years with 100,000 paying customers, profitable after their viral explosion just 2 weeks after they launched 2 years ago. Rebecca is a design thinker and the design spirit goddess of Flodesk that she helped start, grow, and she's got her hand in brand and product and so forth. She's very insightful, and it's an amazing story of explosive growth with no outside funding because they really nailed a problem, really nailed their business model, and really nailed their product design. So we talked deeply about all of those aspects of her business and where Flodesk is going from here. It's a great interview with my friend Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca, good to see you. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast at last.
Oh, thank you, Greg. I'm so excited to be here for our second conversation.
Yes, we were on stage together. We hung out a little bit. Last year was at the SaaS USA in Austin.
Yep.
I did a founder interview with you on stage, and we were just talking about it, how your husband was looking at the crowd and they were gasping right when they heard pieces of your story, which is an amazing story at Flodesk. So we want to hear about all of that. And you have one of these angled roofs behind you on the video, and you're in Portugal right now. You've been living there for a bit.
Yeah. Actually, we have a fully remote and distributed team. So
Yeah.
I feel like my life is sort of in different acts around the world at this point. We have our engineering team in Vietnam, and a lot of our team in product is in the US. And then we have a really incredible team here in Europe as well, in Barcelona and Portugal and the Netherlands. So, and right now we actually have a building that we renovated for the company. So we have company apartments here in Lisbon. So it's quite a ride.
So people do the rotation,
Yeah.
through Lisbon?
Yeah.
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 Well, a few of the founders in my Practical Founders peer groups have remote. They have these wonderfully bootstrapped or practically funded businesses. And once you get them up and running, and you're remote, you realize I could do this from anywhere. So some of the founders started moving about the country and the world, and some of their teams do that too, and they let their teams do that. It's really exciting. Let's start with where Flodesk is today. And it's about a year since we talked on stage last year, and you had made a ton of progress. Let's start with what Flodesk is. How do you describe Flodesk?
Yeah. Flodesk is basically beautiful, simple email marketing. We took on an age-old marketing problem that people had beautiful branding and websites and Instagram marketing materials, but their emails never looked on par with their brands. And we said, somebody's got to do something about this and make it easier for small businesses to get access to one of the highest converting marketing channels in the world. And you have email background as well, Greg, so I'm sure you can speak to the power of email marketing. But that's what we do in a nutshell.
And where is Flodesk today? About how much revenues, customers, employees? What can you say about that?
Yeah, we're approaching 31 million ARR right now. We're close to 100,000 paid recurring customers. So I mean, it's been quite a ride. It's been about 6 years since we launched.
And how many employees and full-time equivalent people now?
Yeah, we have between 75 and 80 at this point. So it's gotten to
Yeah.
be quite a real team.
Yeah. And right. So I think last year at this time, did you have like 30 people or something like that, or
Oh man,
40
I think
people?
we were hovering between 40 and 50. So we've
Okay.
essentially doubled the size of the team in the past year because we're
Yeah.
ambitious and there's a lot of things that we want to take on.
Right. And I know you said you started this company 6 years ago in earnest, right? And it took off really fast.
Yeah.
You guys were catching up to what you had launched. And I guess now are you growing into it? Are things, should we say, settling down and between the tech stack and the team and the organization and marketing? Or do you feel like a startup still at 30
Well,
million?
you know what? That's a great question. And I would just say that it's the most beautiful game of whack-a-mole from the
Uh-huh.
beginning till now, right? Like there's
Yeah.
always something new coming up. There's always a problem to solve. There's always a challenge. So, I mean, at the beginning, right, when you're first starting out, it's sort of like a moment of inception where you go from zero to something. And that leap is always sort of like the greatest and most emotional and has like a lot of crazy moments in it. And then from there, you hope that the plane starts to come to cruising altitude a little and level out. But I would say that we're still on the takeoff portion and battling interesting ideas and problems and working on all sorts of different projects constantly. So to me, it just feels like this like a merry-go-round of themes that we keep revisiting in different ways, right? And when you're
Right.
growing a team and scaling a team, you have challenges at the beginning and then in the middle, and then as you get
Yeah.
bigger, like with your tech stack, you're always wanting to improve it, and you have tech debt, and you have to pay it off. So it's kind of like you have these recurring themes that you felt really painfully at certain points, and then they get better, but then they come back in a different way over the years. But not in a bad way. It's just
Yeah.
exciting. There's always
Yeah,
something
and
going
you
on.
said that whole line with a big smile on your face. So, like, we love this game of the challenges and the puzzle that keeps, like whack-a-mole, keeps recurring for us, and you love the game.
Yeah,
And you did all of this with no outside funding, right? Is
that's
that
right.
correct? So far, and not yet. And I'm sure you have people desperately wanting to throw funding into your business or buy the company and so forth. And you said no in the beginning. You started with no. You grew fast and kept saying no. You're still saying no, right? You don't have any outside funding. That's really amazing.
We don't. We currently don't. We have a lot of amazing investors who are hitting us up all the time,
Yeah.
as expected, and we love having conversations with them. And we're not
Yeah.
opposed to no funding in the future, but at
Yeah.
current moment, no.
Well, that's very practical. And you started this company with two other people, Martha, who is and do you say her name Bitar or
Yes,
Bitar?
Bitar.
Okay, Bitar.
Yes,
Okay. So, who is the CEO, and Trong, who is the CTO. And do you
yes.
have most of your development in Vietnam these days, or
We
is that all
do.
over?
We
Oh, okay.
actually, yeah, we have a full office there. We just renovated an entire building floor. It's a gorgeous, highly
Oh my God.
branded office. We went and visited it last year. It was such a delight to see. But yeah, Trong has an incredible team of engineers there, and I think Trong is really believes in person culture specifically for the engineering team. So he's built a strong muscle around that in Vietnam.
Oh, great. Yes, there's a lot of these philosophical choices that we get to make when we can do it any way we want here. And you're remote and you have some in person, right? And I see a lot of team pictures come through in social media, so I know you guys are a fun team there. And what is your role at the company as one of the co-founders and spiritual leaders of this business?
Spiritually, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm the chief brand and design officer because I
Yeah.
manage both the brand and the product design teams. But in a more abstract and kind of fun way, I'd say if you're talking about the hipster, the hacker, and the hustler, I'm probably the hipster in the trio.
Okay, you have the style. And as you described it, you didn't invent email marketing, but there was
No,
no position in our heads in the real estate. And for a beautiful, simple, easy, works better, well designed, because I worked at Infusionsoft. That was the opposite of simple and easy and beautiful. And
very
all of that was
powerful
very
though. Great
technical,
company.
very powerful, right? And
Yeah.
written by a bunch of developers who didn't think about the front end out there, way out there in the in reality. And even MailChimp, who was the big, can we say the big gorilla in email
Yeah,
marketing?
the
Uh,
500-pound, 1,000-pound
right.
gorilla. Yeah.
It's nice, but it has gotten overloaded. It's not simple anymore. It's got automation. It's got, the all-in-one has reached it, and it was never meant to be simple and beautiful first. It was simpler and easier in the old days, but it ain't anymore. So what was it about this that caused you to see this hole in the market for beautiful and simple email marketing?
Yeah, well, a bit of a going back in time.
Yes, right.
When I first graduated college, I got my first job at a company that did the merchandise for a lot of big rock stars like Linkin Park and Rihanna and Pussycat Dolls.
Yeah.
Kind of dating myself here at the early
Yeah.
2000s, but I learned how to design for a lot of different brands, and they had me doing a lot of projects for different brands all the time. So I was constantly designing
Yeah.
for
Isn't that
different
fun?
looks and feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. But I always knew that I wanted my own company. I'm from the Silicon Valley ecosystem, actually from the Bay Area, and I decided to branch off and during the recession actually and start my own company selling templates to wedding photographers. And it was like a recurring subscription website, which was a novel idea back then for templates. So it was like an all you can download buffet of templates for professional photographers. And they would have templates for their brands and pricing guides and like how to get ready for your wedding session. And then I would always ask my customers, what would you like to see? What would you like me to offer in the shop? And a lot of people said, hey, like we really want MailChimp templates. Like we need our email marketing. We want it to look beautiful. And I was like, cool. So what would a MailChimp template look like? And people were like, well, we just want the graphics and the text that we can easily put into the emails to make it look good. And I'm like, great. So I started creating these Photoshop files where you could edit the email graphics and then you would save it out as an image. And then all you would have to do is put it into MailChimp. And this was one of my best selling products. And this was around 2011, 2012. So I had my shop full of those and I launched a lot of new ones. But every single time after I launched it, the people would purchase one of these templates, I would get an angry all caps email in my inbox from the customer saying, Rebecca, what the heck? Like, I can't implement this. MailChimp is so hard to use. I need a refund right now because I can't use your templates with MailChimp. And you promised it would be easy and it's not. And I was like, well, there's a hole in the market that tech companies and email marketing, I don't know anything about email technology. Like, that's a problem somebody's going to solve. We've got to come along and solve it. There needs to be like a Squarespace for email, right? So it was about 2011, 2012. Then the years go by, 2013, 2014, 2015. Nobody has come up with something on the market that's like a brand forward, design forward email marketing
Yeah.
company. And then in 2017, I ended up moving to San Francisco and I met Martha through a mutual friend who was working at Honeybook at the time, the CRM. And she and I started having a lot of discussions about how she was working with these top influencers in the industry for the small business market.
Very
And
small business.
people who
Yes, right.
yes, and who had millions of followers and were making literally six figures in their business and incredible curated Instagrams and beautiful websites and
Yep.
beautiful experiential marketing at conferences, but their emails sucked, right? Like, for lack of a better way to put it. And so she saw that problem from her side. I saw it from mine. And Trong and I had been friends for a long time and worked on other projects together. So the three of us kind of came along and said, all right, let's see what we can do here.
Oh, fun. So you grew up in the Silicon Valley, and I recognized your surname here. Your father was, one of the original software creators. He was the creator of Paradox, one of the great database products of the 90s. I go back to then and remember it well, and so does my wife, who used it at work and just loved it and so forth.
Wow.
But you were this artistic right brain, a creative person that didn't start with coding and technical and so forth. You ended up in the software business, but you started off as making pretty pictures, or something like that, as a designer, which we know is
Yeah.
very sophisticated work, right? And you found your way back to the other side here. Were you a strange person in Silicon Valley, being let's say, the artist and not the technical person or the tech person?
I don't know, because I feel like the most celebrated figure in Silicon Valley history is Steve Jobs, right? And as
Okay,
soon
there
as we're
we go.
talking
Yeah,
about this, I'm
yeah.
thinking of the video, like that famous video where he's sitting there and he's like, the problem with Microsoft is that they have no taste. And I don't mean that
Yes.
in a small
Yeah.
way. I mean that in a big way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that speaks to my soul. And so, I mean, maybe to an extent, yes, because I learned how to code a bit, but it was just never
Yeah.
super fascinating to me like the design was. But there were a lot of ways, I think, in the late 90s, early 2000s Silicon Valley ecosystem to participate. Like, for example, my school had an amazing robotics team, and
Oh,
one
sure.
of the
Yeah.
divisions of that was a 3D animation team that Autodesk sponsored. So we got
Uh-huh.
free copies of 3D Studio Max. And I led those teams. So and
Sure.
it
Yeah.
sort of
Of
like went
course
in
you did.
parallel with the robotics. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Come on, people. Let's go. Right. Yeah. Love it. Okay.
Yeah, I've always been picky, right? Like I
Ah.
guess I've always had taste, but it was like my mom would take me shopping when I was a kid, and I had a picture in my mind of what I wanted to buy before we went, and I would be very obnoxiously picky about making sure that what we purchased matched my mental image.
Well, I'm sure that works out well for you in the modern era to be, and thank you for your pickiness, right? For the creating a product that it just has the perfect fit and finish. And the more you use it, the more you really appeal to it. And we're back to great products, have great design. And there's a visual aspect, the visual design aspect in emails as well. That's really amazing. So you started this company. You didn't say, let's start coding and so forth. How did you start this company and quit your day job? I know you're making a lot of money selling templates, but how did you start the company?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to the story of having the template shop and then seeing the hole in the market with the emails, and then going to Martha and Trong and actually sitting down with them and saying like, hey guys, like, do you want to work on this together, right? And I actually had some mock-ups that I had some sketches in a black notebook that's kind of become
Hmm.
famous now.
Oh, your
And then
black
I had
notebook.
some,
Yeah.
yeah, my notebook, and then I had mock-ups on the computer that I was showing, and I was like, I, this needs to be in the world, right? Like these small businesses really need this product, and it's a huge problem that has to be solved. And I think Martha did an incredible job of bringing the voice of our customer in from day one. So we actually had a product market fit before we touched a line of code. So Martha and I actually sat down
So
with.
you got your
Oh,
PMF before your MVP is another way to say
we
that.
did.
Yeah,
We
right. Love
did.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, we would sit down in my apartment in San Francisco with these incredible small business owners. We were in a really great ecosystem, a community in San
Yeah.
Francisco, and we were hanging out with a lot of these people. And we would sit down and we would look at their brands, and then we'd say, okay, show us your email marketing. And they'd open their MailChimp or whatever they're using. And we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a shocking moment, right? And so we would sit with them and actually start to redesign their emails in their brand style with their brand voice, or rewrite them and help them guide them through some best practices on how to actually design their emails in Photoshop or Figma or InVision at the time. Actually, that was sort of like a 2016 tech, right? Like you don't really hear about InVision anymore, but for the
Yeah. Yeah.
mockups. And they would be delighted with the designs that we created for them. And we didn't have any software. There was no tech. The engineers hadn't touched a line of code at this time. And then we helped them import those designs into whatever they were using, like Drip or MailChimp at the time, and they would send them out, and they were thrilled with them. So then the next question was like, okay, we actually have a fit for the end result, right? These beautiful emails that people felt really fit their brand and help them express themselves in a more personal way, because also the way that emails have been designed in the past were very technical, and there
Yeah.
wasn't this
Oh,
magic
yes.
to them, like this personal touch.
Hmm.
So we had little moments in them that they hadn't seen before, like putting like a signature, like a handwritten signature at the
Yeah.
bottom, or adding in graphics that looked like handmade collages. And anyway, it was a really neat effect, and no one had really seen that in email at the time, except in really big brands like Anthropologie and Zara. So they would put that in their current system, and we would send them out, and they would get really good results. So the next question was like, okay, how do we build a user interface to actually allow these people to create these templates and this end result with a design without Rebecca and Martha sitting with them and touching the keyboard? So that was sort of the second phase, is like, now that we know exactly what we want the end result to be, how do we create a UI that guides
Let
people
me
there?
stop you there, because there's a lot of founders out there who are getting on the field and building products and so forth. But you sat down with small business owners and said, not from your, what if the product worked like this and you could do this and you could do this and you could do this. Maybe you had a little bit of that, but you also said, let's actually fix your emails to look like your great brand and see if that helps you, right? And they got the real effect of the result of your product, right? You prototype the value really as well. Did you do both of those?
Yes.
Is that what? Yeah. And they said, it's working, I want it. Something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Like we prototyped the emails themselves, right? I mean, in the sense that we redesigned their emails, but then we also started prototyping the interface, and we would sit down with them and I would work on wireframes, and we would have user testing. It was actually a very humbling experience because I remember the very first time.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Yeah. We would come in and we would be like, so where would you go to create a new email? And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, my mock-up's perfect. Like, it's going to work perfectly. And I never designed software before. So I hadn't gone through like what it truly takes to get to that like perfect experience. And I would sit down and be like, I can't find my email button. I'm sorry, guys. And they would sort of feel stressed out because they felt like they were doing something wrong. But we will watch and I would observe, for example, where they would move the mouse if you ask them for a question, because instinctively in their mind, they're looking at a certain place for something to be. And so when I started to move the elements to the places where people are naturally looking for them, all of a sudden we got these perfect, smooth flows. So by the end, we had something in the prototype in a mock-up that people were really excited about. And then Martha's final question on the interviews was like, okay, are you ready to pay for this? And people were actually like pulling out their credit cards, and we didn't even have software yet. So I think finding that product market fit before you even start coding is actually something that I don't hear a lot in Silicon Valley circles, and especially if you're
on the podcast. So that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're bootstrapped, you really don't have the luxury to miss your market, like to miss product market fit and try and tweak your product until you get it.
Around. You can't raise money in the hope of finding it. And usually that's backwards. Were you thinking about these beautiful design in the emails as not something that Rebecca, professional, first world-class designer does for you, but like were you thinking about it as they have a design, the software does it for them, Rebecca isn't there to do a magic trick, to make it look beautiful or something like that? Was there something tricky in there, because you were doing these, I guess you were also in the template world, but, make sure they could do it themselves.
I think that Martha and I set the bar really high for ourselves because she basically, I like the way she puts it. She was like, we need a Rebecca in everyone's pocket.
Yeah, there we
basically.
go. That's correct. Uh-huh.
And so that was the goal, right? And it was like, how do we design templates and the building and editing experience and the email sending experience to be able to guide people through on, a basis that scales where we don't actually have to sit with them, right? On a self-serve basis, but giving them the same experience that we gave them when we were working with them in person. And so that came in three ways, right? Like the first one was making templates that we call it like unscrew upable, but making our templates have parameters in them so that when you start to design and add all of your custom fonts and all this cool stuff that you can do, we have really strong guidelines in the templates so that you can't just go off the rails and do something crazy that's going to make it undeliverable or unusable. And then the UI itself, the builder UI, was something that took a year to really test and perfect. It was a huge, huge project. And that just required
meaning great design is very deliberate, very constrained, right? And it's not just saying here's all the possibilities and you can put anything anywhere, any fonts you like. Steve Jobs said, we're going to constrain the user interface and the result so they can't screw it up and it always looks good and so forth. So in the old days, that was like, what are you doing putting constraints on me? I want to do anything anywhere. But I guess you figured that out. And did you build the builder and design all this before you started coding all that, literally?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, we had InVision mockups. So I actually designed it in Photoshop. So yeah, I had these mockups and we put them in a mockup software, InVision, and Figma now allows you to have more interactivity. So the prototyping is more seamless. But at that point, I was actually exporting JPEGs. and
Yes.
putting links
And
on them,
clicking.
like
Yes.
hot
Right. Yeah.
links. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So did Trong start to build this? Did he build the first version, or did you have a couple coders or a few getting this thing
We had
started? Or
two founding engineers. So Trong worked
yeah.
with them on it. And
Okay.
the very first version was like this exhaustive trifecta of bringing in user feedback and then me like perfecting the designs and then staying up until 4 o'clock in the morning to have the
Yeah.
time zone with the engineers and like going around and around with these user tests, engineering, mock-ups,
Were
until we
you
got the
launched
perfect
at the time,
experience.
or was this like beta?
No,
You'd say.
this was pre-beta almost. Like, I mean, I would say we had an alpha.
Yeah.
We went
Yeah.
through a YC startup school, which was one
Oh,
of the
great.
coolest things that
Hmm.
we did. Yeah. And we actually got a $10,000 grant from them. So
Yeah.
there was no equity exchange, but we were
Yeah.
really grateful to them for that. And then we actually got rejected though for Y Combinator, which is a little bit of a badge of
Yeah.
honor. But no, we love them and we learned a lot going through that experience.
Why do you
And
think
I
you were
think they
rejected at the time? Because you were doing smart things and had a lot of customer validation, pre-customer validation, all that kind of thing. Is it just they're not really interested in small business software, or two women founders, or
no,
something?
you
Yeah. Or
I
you
don't
weren't
think
all
it's
about the
that.
funding?
No, I don't think it's that at all, right? Like I just truly, and they were very transparent with us because they were
Yeah.
like, we love your team and we think it's an interesting idea, but there's so much saturation in this market that we're just not sure
They
that the
want
market
new.
can
Yeah.
sustain. And exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of a myth, because you came into this crowded, everybody's doing it, email marketing and game, and there's let's say hundreds of millions of customers out there, small businesses all over the world, big businesses and all their variations, and your niche of beautiful and simple email marketing. It's a universal kind of thing, but meaning around the world, but it's a very large part of the market. And in fact, probably expanded the market because people didn't do email because it wasn't as beautiful as their Instagram and YouTube videos and all the rest of that. So, um,
Yeah. I mean, I
yeah.
say that a lot. Like, I actually think when people are asking about our TAM and our customer base, they're like, oh, the TAM for traditional email marketing is usually around this. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, I actually think we're creating a new TAM
Yeah,
because we're making it accessible for people who wouldn't even dare to dip their toe in the email marketing
right.
water to begin with.
I totally get it. And a lot of people don't use MailChimp and other tools because it's a little complicated, for the uninitiated. But they've done pretty well along the way, and now it's in
Yeah,
that,
incredible.
it's as a bootstrap success story, bootstrap unicorn there. Why didn't you could have raised funding in Silicon Valley to experienced savvy people, it's a savvy team, founding team, validation. You could have raised funding. What was it in the beginning that said, let's just use our own investment and get this thing up? And why did you choose not to raise funding as a practical founders?
I think it was both like a practical business decision and also a personal one for me because as you
Yeah.
said, my father was in the Silicon Valley ecosystem and I
Yeah.
saw what bringing on investors can do to a
Uh-huh.
company. And I think as we were just getting started, we had so much early traction that we didn't really have a reason to believe that we would need funding from the start in order to just find that product market fit. Like we were literally profitable after 2 weeks of launching. And we've been profitable since then. We haven't had a single month where we haven't been
Yeah.
profitable.
That's amazing. Okay, so you launched this thing and nailed it, and apparently word spread quickly. There's the Calendly story, right? The beta user told all his friends, and the thing just went viral immediately. Did you have like a viral moment
Oh my
when?
goodness. Yes.
Oh, is that right?
Exactly like that. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So we had actually planned to launch on August 12th of 2019. But we had a really good friend who was also an advisor who had, and she was an influencer in the space. And she has a
Yeah, those
list. She had a
influencers.
list then of about 15,000 people who were also influential in this small business bubble. And she tried us. She was like, guys, like, I love this. She was trying out our beta. She's like, can I send a real email to my entire list? And we had never sent an email to that many people before.
Uh-huh.
So it was like our first mass blast.
Yeah,
It
let's
was
give
a
it a
month
try.
before. And she put this block at the bottom of the email that said, loving the way this is designed. Check out this new company, Flodesk, that my two friends made. And at the time, we had this channel in Slack for our trials so that we could see people coming in as they tried it. And we had been like getting a little buzz. So we'd get maybe like 2 to 3 people a day coming in and trying the software. Well, she sent that email and within 1 hour, we got 50 people trying it. The next hour, it was like 100, 200. And then the day after, it was all over Instagram. The day after that,
Oh my
tutorials
gosh.
all over YouTube and bloggers. And Martha had geniusly pushed our team to include a referral program right from the start. So immediately people were copying and sharing their referral links to share about Flodesk. So it just appeared all over the blogosphere. It like exploded. My husband sent me this YouTube video at the time of like it was some sort of TV show that had a setup with thousands of mouse traps, and then the host had a ping pong ball and put the ball in, and all of a sudden all the traps started going off. That's sort of how it felt. It just went completely viral. It was incredible.
This week's podcast is brought to you by my friends at Fullscale. Last year, I interviewed 3-time software founder Matt Watson on this podcast about his successful practical founder journeys. Matt leveraged offshore development talent in his last 2 SaaS companies to hire quickly and scale up efficiently. His top developers and designers were offshore in the Philippines, but they weren't one-off contractors and they weren't difficult to manage outsourced agencies. He found an endless supply of top tech talent who became savvy members of his team, working hard every day to get things done. So for his 4th tech venture, Matt created Fullscale, which is one of the fastest growing software development companies in any region. Fullscale vets, employs, and supports over 300 professional developers and designers and testers in the Philippines who can augment and extend your core dev team. I know practical SaaS founders who use Fullscale to grow faster and avoid the product development nightmares that can kill a growing startup. So visit fullscale.io and see why their approach works so well, and book a call to see if they can help you. Now back to our podcast. Yeah, so it's possible, right? The product itself is the great marketing, and people see it and understand the brand story and the positioning story, right? You don't have to give them too many words about it. It's demonstrated itself, right? And
It was incredible.
you didn't have to have salespeople sell it and email, push them. No, really, here, let me explain it again, all that kind of thing. They totally got it. So you nailed that story, right? Beautiful, simple emails. I guess you've been saying that for a long time. And people said, oh, yes, that's what I always wanted. And your product demonstrated that. So, I mean, it wasn't, and affiliate marketing accelerated that or multiplied that. But this wasn't a big pushing thing, right? Advertising and
No.
marketing push or salespeople in B2B enterprise and so forth. You nailed the product. And did you feel right away that, thank God we spent 2 years working on this thing and, ready to go?
I felt the opposite. I felt like, oh, we didn't spend enough time on it,
Oh,
right? Because
right.
I'm always the product
Right.
perfectionist. And I'm like, oh, but it's
Right.
those bugs and everything. Now we have all these people reporting bugs. And Martha was, she was still working full time at HoneyBook. So she would come home after work and have to work another shift practically. I mean, it was
Yeah, of
insane times.
course.
We would get 500 support emails at one time in a day. It was
Yeah.
just nuts. It was absolutely nuts.
Okay. Well, very exciting. And you eventually, the 3 of you, quit your day jobs and went in on this here, Flodesk, Flodesk. And it is now one of the popular large email marketing systems for small businesses out there. And, with approaching 100 employees now, and it's never a straight line. Like you kind of went from nothing to, whoa, this is crazy. And, and I'm familiar with the old days of email marketing. You had to build your own email service provider to push the emails out on the internet and do all of that kind of thing. How did you solve that problem? You had a beautiful UI. Was there something, SendGrid or something else that you used for the plumbing of managing these emails and handling the
Absolutely.
spam, all that kind of thing? Was this part of the magic trick? There was a modern plumbing available to you, or did you have to build all that too?
No, we sit on the shoulders of giants. So we work with AWS as well as SendGrid for our tech
Okay.
stack. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also, but the spam thing is is a whole nother discussion, right?
Oh
Because
my God.
that was one of our huge issues that we were battling at
Of
the
course.
beginning because we were new to email marketing, right? And the spammers are always 2 steps
Yeah, they
ahead of
jump
you. So
on that.
our
They put in their list. They start spamming everybody. The light,
But they were so
yeah.
fast and our team was so small, and we ended up playing like a cat and mouse game with them, getting shut
Oh,
down and having our
I'm
servers shut
sure.
down, and
Right.
it was
Uh-huh.
insane. It was insane.
Insane. So, so what was that like, that first year in market? Insane. Spammers coming and disasters every day and plugging the holes and multiplying the marketing out there with your affiliates and everybody. Uh, was it like all day, all night, just playing
It
catch up?
was. It was. And it's funny because when I look back on it with my rosy glasses, it's like the best year of my life,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah. Right.
it was
Woo!
like
Yeah.
slaying dragons,
Yeah.
spammers, our servers going down because our databases weren't set up to handle the viral
Yeah.
capacity that was coming in. Lots of bugs, first time founders, right? I mean, everything, but it was so beautiful, right? Because you have all the war stories and all the crazy things that happen, but at the end of it, you had this incredible business and you created something of deep
Yes.
value
Right.
to people who really needed the product, and watching them take off with it and make Flodesk their own, like it was the coolest thing ever.
Coolest thing. Yeah. And all the stories out there. And even though it's an established market, which tends to have a very high bar for quality, you were doing a new thing in an established market. I call it a subcategory,
Yeah,
right?
we actually
It's
have a
like email,
patent.
except we're the beautiful one, right? And that's a pretty short story. But people must have given you a little leeway because in this crazy explosion, to catch up as they do with startups, probably in that first year.
Yeah, we did. In fact, this one time comes to mind when it was Black Friday and we couldn't handle the volume and our servers went down. And I mean, that's like the absolute worst day in the ever to have an outage, right? For a few hours. And I remember Martha and I were just sitting there being like, we're done. This is over. No one's
We're
ever going to
toast.
trust us again. Like we're over. But we decided we had this Facebook community where a lot of people were gathering to talk about Flowdesk. And we have tens of thousands of people in there now. It's sort of like
Yeah.
our support group.
Yeah.
And a lot of our friends were in there. And Martha and I were like, you know what? We're just going to face the music. We're going to show up and address people and be honest and real. And it's going to be our truth, right? So we go in there and we record a video together telling people exactly what happened and why and how we're going to fix it and how we understand that this is, this is a big issue and that we're here and like there's people behind this. And we got the most loving, incredible
Oh,
reaction from the community. Like people were just like they were shocked that the founders would show up in such a profoundly raw way. And
yeah.
we just
Another
got the
big
most
brand moment
amazing.
for your company, right?
Yeah, it was. And a learning for us, right? Like that being honest and transparent with your audience is actually the best way to handle issues rather than trying to cover it up and pretending it didn't happen.
Yeah. So as you were getting walloped by all of these things and your business is taking off, a lot of founders in Silicon Valley would have said, all right, let's just get $10 million or $20 million on, if we tell a bigger story and start hiring people and throw bodies at it and throw executives at it and so forth. But you didn't do that either, right? I mean, you were already profitable. Did it just not occur to you that you needed 500 people to solve this problem or any funding, or you were profitable and making your way through it with your scrappy team?
Well, it's a great question, but I think for us, it's always been fundraising has been an ongoing discussion, but for us, that would be the wrong reason to raise, right? Like the
Yeah.
only reason I think that we would want to raise is if we find a CAC machine that is
Yes.
so dependable and reliable that we know if we're going to throw a wad of cash into this machine, it's going to have this level of output and the numbers
Right.
make a lot of sense for the amount of the company you have to give up. But especially at that point, we weren't even close to there with and figuring out like the Rubes Goldberg of getting the
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah,
input
it was
output.
working, but it wasn't very predictable. And as you describe it, just to explain, CAC machine meaning you had enough money to fund engineers and operations and solve the problem if you get through it. But the CAC is customer acquisition cost or customer acquisition, which is a classic phase of software where you have enough product to sell and you figured enough things out, you have product market fit. And if you spent $20 million, you would get $100 million in revenue, which is a great payback, meaning customer acquisition. And
Exactly.
this was very organic, right? So you didn't know how to spend money to make it go faster, right? And
And we
congratulations,
also,
there you found the
thank
leverage without the money. Yeah.
totally. And there's that piece of it. And there's also like, I have found that the reason you hire is never to solve a problem. You need to be sharp and be able to figure out how to solve a problem on your own or understand at least where the problem lies. And you hire people once you've proven something out, right? It's like, okay, we realize that our paid ads are having a huge return on investment for the company. So now we want to have someone come in to own that so they can
Wow.
scale that operation. But to hire someone just to come in and figure something out that you can't figure out yourself usually doesn't end well, because how are you going to
Nope.
manage something you don't understand?
I have this conversation every single month, and I thank you for putting a point on it. Right? You never hire someone to solve a problem, but that's what the VC funding game is it the money goes to hiring usually to solve a problem that you couldn't fix, so you hire enough talent, but it doesn't usually work that way. And we have this conversation every single month in our Practical Founder peer groups. Todd Watson and the rest is, we got this problem, it won't go away if I only hire this, and everybody talks them back. We're bootstrappers. You got to solve the problem first before you put the right person on it to keep it going from there. You've
Absolutely.
put up as your brilliant designer mind, put a point on one of the main differences between overfunded companies and practical companies is we figure out how to solve the problem enough first before we put a person on it. That's
I think,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I think that's something that I fundamentally believe is the right way to approach problems as well. I'm definitely a pragmatist. And
Yeah.
I think you have to be as a founder. And I appreciate the funding ecosystem, and there's companies and
Yeah.
technologies that need it, right? Because
Yeah.
you say you have like a huge R&D effort,
Yeah.
you need people to come. And I'm not saying like that I can solve every problem that we have personally, but
Yeah.
it's like you need to be able to really understand a problem and fundamentally understand the sort of the space where the solution lies if you want to bring
Yeah.
an expert in. And still, like, I probably wouldn't hire someone full time to find something that I don't know exists or not,
Yeah.
or is the correct
Uh-huh.
solution or not. I would bring someone in once I've proven out that something's working and I want to throw gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. That's a great insight. And this thing started growing. Did it take a year or so when you could take a breath and say, we're growing steadily and the bonfires are out and there's small fires and a little smoke, or is it just been one crazy growth phase and, stack of problems after another?
It's been crazy then, it's crazy now. There's
Okay.
no
Right.
moment, there's no breather moment here, but I wouldn't have my life any other way. Like, I'm obsessive. Like, everyone talks
Yeah.
about like that
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so popular in the last 10 years, work-life balance. Well, like, I'm not a balanced person.
Yeah.
Never going to have a work-life balance.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna enjoy every minute of what I do. And my work gives me so much meaning in my life. And I'm so grateful for that.
And that's another reason to not sell your company. I had Jason Fried, Mr. Basecamp, 20 years with Basecamp, and he's still moving great design
That's
thinker, right?
amazing.
He's still moving things around the website. He literally said last month, trying to get to the website down to 3 pages, right? In contrast to all the complicated, project management tools. And why sell the company if you like to work on the puzzles and problems that you get to work on? So is that your theory? We love what we're doing. It's hard, but that we like hard puzzles and it's worthy cause for your customers and the market. Do you think that you and Martha and Tron could run this thing for another 15 years like Jason at
Maybe.
Basecamp?
I mean, I think I go through phases where I'm like, this is so hard and I don't know if this is sustainable. And then I'm like, oh my God, I love what I'm doing. You do this every day for the rest of my life, right? And it's sort of like an up
Yeah.
and down phase. But here in this moment today, I'm feeling really great about everything. So I could definitely see myself doing that. And the truth is, like, I just love answering design questions in the world. Like, I love solving problems in
Yes.
the world using design. So as long as I'm able to do that here, or wherever we go, I'm happy. Like, I'm a happy camper. That's sort of been a theme
Yeah.
throughout my life. And
Right.
I feel like I'm doing my best work. So I
Right.
love it.
And that's a force multiplier in your product, in your marketing, and your brand and the value of your company out there, and even the design of your company, right? There's a design aspect to, assembling and building a company built like Jason Fried says. Well, think of your company as a product that you keep working on and iterating. I'm sure you have design
Yeah.
problems in organization. Do you work on those, or do you say, uh, Martha, you're the CEO, you can handle how we're organized, I'll handle, the brand and the design of the product? How do you separate what you all work on?
Yeah, I think that it's always an ongoing conversation. And the best thing that she and I have done is invest in our relationship. So we've actually worked with a lot of coaches over the years to figure out
Mhm.
how we can communicate
Oh,
better,
great.
because I think it's always a little bit of a shifting boundary. Like, I mean, I have opinions about how things are set up and I can give her feedback, but at the end of the day, she owns it. And I respect that because I don't want to own all that part of the
Mhm.
business. Like that's
Mhm.
very it's stressful for me. Like it's not a delight, but Martha is amazing at it and she's incredible with people and she's a really stellar CEO. And
Mhm.
I love seeing her design our company internally and
Mhm.
externally, and like her vision for how we take our entire vision to market. And that's sort of the space she plays in, and I respect that. But at the same time, like as a founder, I have places where I have opinions on it. And so
Yeah.
us having this really incredible line of communication that we've worked on, because it's like any marriage or partnership, right? Like you have friction and disagreements and arguments, and you have to figure out how to fight fair and how to have the conversations so that you get to the root of whatever is going on for either of us, right? Like maybe I'm having anxiety and I bring that into the conversation, then it takes the temperature up or whatever. So being able to have like a shared language around how we're feeling and what we're thinking about and where we're coming from, and then being able to have discussions about the different parts of the business is like the only way that we're going to get through it, because there's never going to be a 100% perfectly defined boundary. Like, I mean, yes, she has her
Yeah, that's correct.
responsibilities, I
Right.
have mine, but she has really strong opinions about our brand sometimes too, and I
Yeah.
love
Mhm.
that. Like I want her input.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a constant conversation.
And so, what would you say, in contrast to how you've described yourself, the design perfectionist and product perfectionist, and exciting with problems, and maybe a more visual, aesthetic and taste? What are Martha's superpowers, and how is she different than you? Right, my wife and I agree on all our same values, but she's the opposite to me in personality type, and other things like that. I'm extroverted, she's introverted, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so how is Martha different? We'll just talk about the co-founder aspect there. How is she different?
I think that she and I are actually more similar than a lot of people would think. A lot of people
Ah,
say we're different, but she and I we do have very strong foundational values. And then from there, I think she's able to process information and come to the correct decision very, very fast. I need a lot of time and
ah,
space to be able to take in all the inputs and then be able to give sort of one big output. But I need
that's
space
the
to think.
design
And
thinking.
Martha's
You
able
don't
to
do
go,
it half baked. Yeah, yeah, right.
exactly. Like I need to think about like every orbit of the problem and then come to the right conclusion after taking all that information. But Martha is like constantly being asked to, fix this fire, like deal with this issue here, help with the marketing here, like how do we handle this, like PR, like market, like and every aspect of the business, and like managing the executives, putting out fires, dealing with people. And she's so quick, right? Like she's so fast. And when you're
Mm.
talking to her, she speaks fast, she thinks fast, she makes decisions quickly, but she makes them really well. So it's funny too, because people will meet Martha and they'll be like, wow, like, is she being hasty because she's making these decisions really quickly? And it seems in the surface like she's just kind of coming up with an answer on a whim, but actually she puts really deep thought into it, but she does it really quickly too. And I think that's one of her magical superpowers and something that makes her really special. And she's also warm and charismatic, and I think that makes a lot of people feel very good when they're around her. And I think that's important for a CEO as well, especially like in this day and age. People want to be able to relate to the founders instead of seeing them as some like prickly Ivy Tower people that are in like, the 10th floor above them and they can't access them. So
And she
there's a
in
lot to
the
love
Bay?
about her.
Do you have an office in the Bay Area, or is she in the Bay Area? Where is she?
No, so she's actually in Lisbon, and she
Oh,
moved
great.
here during the pandemic. Yeah, and so that's
Okay.
part of the reason we we sort of expanded to Europe. But she comes to the Bay Area, we come here, and then we also have most of our executives in the Bay Area. We have one who's on the East Coast. But we meet up 3 times a year, and I travel a lot, and that's just our life.
Yeah, that's right. So one of these new executives that had some experience, that you guys had solved the problem and figured out just the right person to put on the thing you'd figured out to take it to the next level. What would they say about Flodesk? They say, I've worked around, a bunch of these companies, and I got to Flodesk, and you are all very X. What is it that is unique about Flodesk that people experience from the inside without it being on the wall? What would they say?
Yeah, I think that they would say that we make decisions more intuitively than other companies. So Martha and I really trust our guts when it comes to decision making and how things work at the company. And obviously we have like a very strong data arm. So I don't want to say that we don't make decisions. It's data informed, but it's gut first, intuition first. And I think that's something that a lot of execs haven't experienced because that's not the way most companies are run.
Right. And it doesn't mean unstructured as you described, right? It could be fast and so forth, but you already have a deep structured ethic, and strategy around here. Is your strategy to keep making your product better and your brand more visible and connected and, keep growing revenues? And, I noticed you added in the last year the checkout feature, the now a little shopping cart, kind of thing that is
sales
people
funnels.
can pay another $10 a month for. But is your strategy, your pricing really hasn't changed all these years. Is your strategy just keep doing more and better of what you've got because it's a really big market?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of big plans in the pipeline. And I think one of the other things that you were talking about, what makes us different, is that we're like completely obsessed with our customers, right? Like we love them, and we're always incorporating their feedback and their feelings and the temperature of our audience into everything that we do. And I think one thing that we decided last year, because we were sort of going in a direction where we had to make a decision, and it's been one of the best decisions we've made, is that we've decided not to become an all-in-one. We want to be best in class email marketing.
That was a question, right? Everybody's all-in-one. It's easier to add the next and next and next thing and then have the whole, platform.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't want to do that, right? Like the entire industry is going in that direction. And now when you land on their websites and homepages, you're like, what the heck do you do? It's not clear.
Everything.
It's not sharp. Exactly. We don't want to be everything, right? Because if you go to a restaurant and you see pizza and tacos and Chinese food on the menu, you're going to be like, what the heck is this restaurant? I don't know. But if your friend's like, dude, I know the best taco place. They only have 5 things on their menu and it's the best tacos in Austin. That's the taco place you want to go to, right? And so we want to be a little bit like that, where we're like delicious, perfect, exquisite, amazing email marketing. And that's it. And we're comfortable with that.
Always requires a focus, right? So I always have the line, show me a lineup, right, for a concert or a restaurant or a product, and I'll show you a specialist. We're the best at just this thing for just these people, right? So, and it's always true, whether it's a musician or, politician or a new consumer product or software. When there's a long line, they're not everything to everybody. And another Apple is a great example of that. So would you say that you're more of a product strategy company, meaning Flodesk is about beautiful, simple email marketing. That's what we do, regardless of who you are, big company, small company, man, woman, small business, any kind of industry or anything like that? Or is it more of a who company, like I'm a who kind of company for my practical founders, with the target market pivot foot around a certain kind of small business owner who has a certain design perspective? Which one do you think you are, a who or a what company in that product market?
I think that we want to be small, like excellent email marketing for everyone, but I would say that everyone is very, very broad.
Yeah,
and while we have a niche for small business owners today, we would like to expand in the future. But what we don't want to lose sight of is like our obsessive focus on branded design. So in a way, we're kind of like email marketing for every business who cares about their brand and great
Yeah.
design.
Yes. And if you can move more of the world towards great design, as Steve Jobs did to the world, right? Created a new standard for product
That's the
experience
goal.
and design, right? Then everybody comes your way, and you've moved everybody else out. And it's like McDonald's got started as the hamburger specialist, right? And it took them years to be now the all-in-one. And so where do you go for a great hamburger? You go for someplace else, right? Somewhere in the world. And in
I do
California,
love their chicken nuggets, though.
oh
It's
my
like my
gosh,
absolute go-to. My absolute go-to when I'm like drained and exhausted and I forgot to eat the entire day. It's like
right,
chicken nuggets, a sweet and sour sauce.
right. Awesome.
My
So
guilty pleasure.
So let's talk about like the growth game. You had a viral moment, you had affiliates. What else has caused the growth? Are you, I don't know, in email, you've got the footer, right? It always says built by Flodesk and
Exactly.
check it
I was
out
going to say
yourself and so
2
forth.
words,
Yeah,
viral loop. Yep.
viral loop.
It's Yep. So putting our branding on the footer of emails, like the Hotmail model, that's how Hotmail took off in the early
Yeah.
days,
Mhm.
and on our
Yep.
forms. And we have a lot of forms that are like publishable so that you can actually start growing an email list without a website. And we have our branding on those as well. And that's really helped. And then on top of that, we have paid ads that we started running, I
Okay.
think, in 2020.
Yeah.
And so and that's helped as well. But I would say like the core is the viral footer.
Right. So you don't have a big marketing team, and I don't know, are there any salespeople like for $30, $35 a month, something like that?
Not now, not now. But if we decide, in the future that we want to go a little more up market, that's probably something that we would look into. But I think, yeah, not for now. We have a larger marketing team now than we ever had, but it's still very lean compared to most companies.
Right. Well, let's talk about the other high contrast thing you're doing in your business that's visible from the outside, and that is your pricing and your business model, right? Everybody has the slider. I love this on your pricing page. You do the slider of got 1,000 people on my list. I've got 100,000 people on. You slide it out, and how much is it going to cost me? It's the same darn $35 a month, Rebecca.
Yep.
Still, and you haven't changed that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that it's been a huge growth tactic for us, right? And it especially served us well in the beginning to differentiate
yeah,
ourselves from the marketing, right? Like, because nobody else has it. So it
right.
really is the best deal in email marketing.
Yeah. And now you can also pay for a little bit more per month for the checkout e-commerce, a little shopping cart kind of thing here. Presumably, if you would have sold your company for a big prize to private equity or to a strategic, or if you got big VC funding, the first thing they would probably stand on is you gotta charge more to people who use more of it, have bigger lists and things like that. Is that what is the ethic behind that? Is it just a high contrast part of your brand story that says people really appeal to, or is there something else to it?
Yeah, I think that it's just been a part of our strategy from the beginning. And especially because we don't offer a free plan right now, it was something that we could do to attract customers
Ah,
from other services, right? Because it was completely unique and a differentiator in the market. So it also makes for a really great brand story. And I think a lot of small businesses come in and they see other companies with their pricing and they imagine growing their list and having and being charged more as they grow. And they love the
yeah.
fact that with Flodesk, they don't have to worry about that.
Well, MailChimp, of course, famously had their freemium, meaning you could, if you had up to 1,000 or something like that, 500 emails, you could use it for free. And they had millions of free users that would eventually start growing if they were successful. That you and that has been reduced for all the nonprofits. That little free window has gone down as it's part of Intuit. But you don't have a free plan in this PLG world. Why don't you have a try it and see free plan?
Well, we have a free plan in the sense that you can get started growing your list. And we have this incredible array of opt-in forms. And we have ones that you can publish. So you can actually get started with a business and growing your list without a website. And so those are completely free and you can have as many
Yeah.
subscribers as you want on that. And that's actually done quite well for us. And then as far as a plan to send emails, it's an idea. It's a recurring thing that comes up a lot, but our
Yeah.
current business model doesn't support it. But who knows in the future?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got it. What's the biggest difference between now Flowdesk this year, as you presumably maturing internally and externally, and the technology is, continuing to improve? I'm sure you got through a growth spurt and had to fix a lot of things, go back and fix a lot of things. What's the biggest difference between Flowdesk of 2025 and even last year or a couple of years ago? What would be
Oh,
the most noticeable differences? And I know you guys are moving fast.
I think actually what I love about it is that the differences aren't noticeable, but not because there's no differences.
Yeah,
So
right, of course.
we we've been adding a lot of features and functionality. Like we actually have a frill board, which is
Ah,
like a website where people can go and make
yeah,
requests for features. And our product managers are constantly referencing that as sort of like the heartbeat of like, what do we build next for our roadmap? So we have added a lot of power and functionality. One notable thing that we launched last year is called link action. So it actually allows you to segment people depending on any link that they click in your email, which is very, very powerful and something they've been asking for a while. But the way we design the UI is always whisper quiet and makes it very simple. So even though we've added a lot of functionality, like the link actions, like an entire analytics dashboard area, so you can see everything that's going on with your emails, and so many more other like fun things. We added a link in bio form solution, so you can actually start collecting subscribers right from your Instagram or your social bio, and that's been very
yeah.
popular. So we've added a lot of functionality, but we managed to tuck it into the platform in a way that doesn't feel like you're getting crowded, like you're getting a Microsoft Word 95 experience.
Right.
I'm
And
very proud
every
of that.
menu grows. This is MailChimp. Every menu grows. And to get to the basic things, you have to go through all the menus and get through all the things they want you, the power user features that, I literally have the same problem. I just updated the Practical Founders website yesterday with a better brand story. Now I got to go back to MailChimp. And, so I'm going to look at Flowdesk and we're going to see how we can bring that thing in there. But,
I would love that. That'd be
yeah.
amazing.
So you're doing this, if they click this link, then let's start them here. And you're not using tags, which all of a sudden is an explosion of complexity that everybody else
Absolutely.
does. Right. That's the classic thing. If you
Yeah,
want
because
to
I think we
segment.
figured out like tags are sort of like a secondary layer of categorization for an action that people take, but it's much more intuitive to just say, if someone clicks this, then put them here, right? And so in a way, we have tagging in the sense that we have all of the
Yeah.
functionality of tagging, but without you having to manage a separate system, like an abstract system in order to keep track of actions.
Right. Yeah, and the MailChimp of the old days was a simple kind of app, right? It wasn't beautiful, but it was kind of simple. But now it's not simple. And it's a very classic thing in products, right? That Apple doesn't really put stuff on the iPhone in that environment that is so complex that you got to read the manual or call a friend to use and so forth. But so you've got that design discipline to say anybody who uses this is not going to get lost and we're not going to have this explosion of features.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely. It's like a
Yeah.
huge design value.
Well, thank you for doing that. Can you think of, or do you have other examples besides Apple of excellent design, exquisite brand in the software space? Do you have other examples out there? There aren't too many, probably.
Yeah, I mean, the Squarespace is a classic, right? I mean,
Okay, there we go. Yeah,
this beautiful, like unbelievable brand, and their product is beautiful. Like I'm a huge Squarespace fan. But I actually think that OpenAI with ChatGPT is a
yeah,
wonderful product too. Everybody's been copying the UI now, so it doesn't feel novel. But it's like you've got this like I almost imagine it in my mind of like this beast monster of like giant server farms like processing your queries in order to give you all this information, and yet it's just this light, simple text box. And
yes,
I think there's something incredible about that, where you've got like this enormous amount of like in people's minds, right? Like academic research for decades and top engineers in the world and like billions in investment and like and server farms and computers crunching all this crazy gears going on in the background, and all you see is this little text box. I mean, it's amazing.
that's awesome. Well, you mentioned AI, and all the website builders have a little AI to help you write copy and theme your website and maybe even do images on the fly, right? That classic problem that people had to go through. Is there, and presumably you're using AI in some ways inside your business to, help people do things faster, maybe customer support. But do you see an AI angle, or is there one already in the product yet?
Yeah, we're about to actually release AI generated subject lines. So I am excited
Ah,
about that. But I think our approach to AI was a little bit more wait and see because we want to
uh-huh.
make sure that we dispatch AI to help solve real problems and not just because everybody's all of a sudden putting the
Right.
sparkle icon in their app, right? So coming up with your own subject line is a pain point and a little point of friction as people are sending emails. So we see a very obvious win right there. So that's coming soon. And then in the near future, we're exploring generative and what we can do to help people write copy because blinking cursor syndrome is a real problem.
Well,
And
that's
we
right.
have a lot of other ideas sort of in the background that are a little more innovative, and I'm excited about it. And so we'll just see, right? Like we'll be rolling those out, and we'll see how they do. But I think we've been very intentional about no AI for the sake of AI, right? And we want to preserve what makes Flodesk really special, which is this incredible design which I haven't seen AI been able to generate. Like I haven't seen a lot of generative design AI yet that's spitting out layouts and designs that are on par with like our top designers, right? That are trained in like
Uh-huh.
Amsterdam and Switzerland and bringing all of that like
Mhm.
incredible 20th century design culture into our product.
In your templates and in the product that
Correct. Yeah.
so they can get to beautiful quickly, right? They get
Yeah.
basically Rebecca at the pocket, right? Something like that.
Yes, exactly. But I do see some generative, and I see some other more innovative ideas coming down the pipe. So hopefully everyone will stay tuned and see.
Well, how fun to change the world and have puzzles and problems to work on every day and to be able to do it from anywhere and to change the lives of so many people that you're helping out there, 100,000 plus paying customers. It's really awesome. And it's excited to see that you've done it as bootstrap founders without any outside funding. And this isn't a religion, so you get to choose how you want to play the game, but you've built something really valuable for the founders and the team and the world. So congratulations on doing that.
Thank you.
Rebecca, and you're still smiling, even though you have 75 employees in the company and, every, plus or
It's
minus.
fun. It's
I know.
amazing.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you're building your
amazing. To
dream.
me,
It's
that's the sweet
amazing.
spot between 50 and 150, which feels like a lot of weight to a lot of startup founders, but you can do amazing things in the world. You can move the world with 150 people that you can't do with six or 10 or 15 in the same kind of way. But, over a couple hundred, it gets a little weighty. That's my quotient out there. Rebecca, I always ask, what advice do you have for practical founders out there who are building a SaaS product? Maybe they're early in getting customers and dealing with MVPs and product market fit and getting to $1 million in revenue. And maybe they're a little further along or a lot further along and getting those offers for funding or acquisition or such. But they love what they do. What is advice that you offer most often to software
It's
founders
kind
out there?
of, I mean, it's not sexy, right? But it's the
Of
truth.
course.
It's like, first of all, build something that people actually need, right? Like find a real problem. Don't just build for the sake of building. Like we're all creatives, right? And we love building as founders, but like make sure that you're actually building something that there's a real demand for that solves a real problem wherever that may be in the world and with whatever market you choose and your expertise that you bring in. Like it has to have real tangible value to people. And then the second thing is like try your hardest if you can to seek out product market fit before you start coding and investing a lot in a certain direction. And you can do that by having conversations with your target market, by seeing if people are willing to pull out a credit card when you demo your product, by putting mock-ups in front of people and asking which direction people like best. But like incorporate user feedback and find what people love before you build the entire thing. And it's like it's very to me it seems like it should be obvious, right? But it's really not conventional wisdom in Silicon Valley. It's kind of the opposite. So, yeah, that's what I would say. And it's totally doable. It's feasible.
Right. And there's no end to the amount of problems that are really painful for people that they want to solve. And it's a great puzzle to figure out how to solve them so magically that it really works, and they pay you for a long time and want to tell their friends. So we're back to basics in the software business there. And of course, it's a little unsexy, but there's a lot of AI stuff out there that I'm not sure is solving, a sustainable problem. A lot of magic trick coming out there, but it's also a new exciting time in software. So Rebecca, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing your story of the Flodesk.
Absolutely.
On the Practical Founders podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Thanks for watching this week's founder interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to hit like and then subscribe to my Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly videos for serious software founders who are building valuable companies without big funding. Check out my blog and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. And follow me on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going. See you next week.